science, technology, engineering, math. Long ago, the four disciplines lived together in harmony. Then everything changed when. Okay, I'm just kidding. Hello, everyone. I'm actually going to share with you my personal journey of formation from early childhood to early adulthood, painting the picture of how a curious, math-oriented kid is now becoming an avid, aspiring data scientist. Ever since I can remember, I've always been a numbers person. I remember being extremely proud that I was the first in my preschool class to count past 10. I loved seeing numbers in the world around me. Highway exit signs, the price tag on my favorite Transformers toy, even the car FM radio as I fiddled with the knob watching the digits flash by. This fascination was certainly sustained and encouraged in a large part by my environment. My parents are both scientists, pharmaceutical chemists to be precise, and their educational and professional journeys have been primarily STEM focused all their lives. They both attended university in China, where they earned master's degrees in chemistry. They then came to the United States to continue their education at Iowa State, where they graduated with another master's. Looking back, I can clearly see all the ways they prepared a path for me to follow their footsteps and enter into the STEM world. My parents would introduce me to mathematical and scientific concepts far before the same ideas were ever mentioned at school. And through this, I grew to love the continuous process of discovery and understanding. They sparked my imagination by sharing chemical and engineering magazines for me to pore through. My grandma was also highly instrumental in my early education. She was a teacher in China and would live with us in the US every summer. What came along with grandma's presence was a training boot camp of sorts, where I would receive her expert instruction in mathematics, Mandarin Chinese, and physical exercise. The fruits of my labor included knowing the multiplication tables like the back of my hand and some half-decent jump rope skills. Admittedly, I wasn't always the biggest fan of the additional work she assigned me. I would compare my summer break to my friends, where their families would travel to exotic destinations, a far cry from my structured routines of discipline and learning. While my parents also made sure to provide me with wonderful vacation experiences, I still desired the completely carefree, academicless experience that my peers had. I didn't realize it at the time, but my parents and grandma were challenging me out of love, out of a desire for me to build a successful future that they had worked so hard for. There were a multitude of experiences throughout my schooling years that hinted towards my current path in data science. Even in elementary school, I quickly understood fundamental distinctions between my math and writing classes. With math, there was always a right answer. I had an exact target to strive for, and I would always be able to verify if I was correct. Especially with growing up in a household where academic performance was a priority, I was drawn to the clear, instant feedback I received on my work. However, I perceived these properties of measurability, certainty, and precision to be completely absent in English. I found that there were so many approaches, countless ways to answer prompts and questions, and that it wasn't always immediately obvious whether my answers were correct, sufficient, or even comprehensible. Grading and feedback also varied and was dependent on the specific person who evaluated my work. These nuances and variability in the English language posed a striking departure from the clear, well-defined structure of mathematics. I keenly remember dividing the STEM and humanities classes in my mind into two distinct bins: fun and useful, and boring and useless. This internal separation remained with me throughout middle and high school. And although I eventually came to appreciate the beauty of the humanities through my world history class, I still found myself significantly more drawn to science and mathematics, where theorems, postulates, and grounded principles governed the space. The safety net of knowing a right answer always existed was far too alluring. Even when I made mistakes, I knew I could identify the exact point where a problem occurred, and I could learn exactly how to overcome it in the future. High school was around the time when I began seriously considering what I wanted to do when I grew up. Obviously, people had asked me this question as far as I can remember, but back then, my answers derived primarily from what I thought was coolest at the moment. At one point, I even wanted to be an astronaut, backhoe operator, and movie star all at once. But now, armed with a better self-awareness of my skills and preferences, I knew that I wanted to enter STEM. Deciding where I would land specifically, however, was yet another challenge. While the sciences I'd been exposed to, biology, chemistry, physics, were all interesting to me, there wasn't a specific area that stood out. And while many of my friends were picking up coding and dabbling in computer science, this field also seemed very foreign to me. I was never the kid who built their own PC, played desktop games, or wanted to know the low-level intricacies of how my favorite websites were created. I operated under the assumption that techie roles just weren't for me. Yet, despite all these considerations, I still knew that I wanted mathematics to be a part of my life. The very same principles that I discovered as a child, the unchanging, immutable right and wrong in the field, were a comforting place for me in an ever-changing world of uncertainty, where relationships became complex and stresses were introduced from seemingly everywhere. There were two specific classes that blazed a trajectory for me: AP Statistics and Computer Science. Statistics was where I identified the specific branch of math I wanted to pursue. The connection to the real world was immediately evident, from demonstrations of how the normal distribution accurately models human heights in a population to the applications of Bayes' theorem in saving lives. I finally found what I was looking for: work that would have a real positive impact in the world, where I could leverage my mathematical abilities to succeed. Our introduction to experimental design also connected me to my parents' work with drug development, where I learned the basics of how clinical trials are designed and implemented. I had always admired the direct contributions that my parents were making day to day as they sought to develop compounds to treat cardiovascular and respiratory diseases. And now I had the opportunity to be a part of that very process. Computer Science A helped me overcome preconceived notions that I was not capable of a programming role. My friends encouraged me to register for the course along with them, promising to help me along the way. And after just our first few classes, I knew that was the right decision. Although I was only just beginning to understand the basics, the act of leveraging a new language to communicate with my computer to provide instructions of exactly what operations I wanted it to perform seemed almost like magic to me. For loops and recursion, concepts that I take for granted now, were a source of fascination and awe. Throughout the year, I became increasingly convicted that programming had to be a part of my studies and work in the future. It probably comes as no surprise that I came into Northeastern as a data science and mathematics major. While researching the degree, the curriculum and associated opportunities were nearly a one-for-one match for what I wanted. As a fourth year now in my final semester, I can confidently say that my experience has been overwhelmingly positive in directing me towards a fulfilling career path. My course load has been a broad mix of data science, statistics, applied and theoretical mathematics. This odyssey of learning has further cemented my self-knowledge that I greatly favor the practical and real-world applications of math as opposed to the abstract. Group theory and number theory did reshape my understanding of mathematical structures and relations, but I know for certain that I wouldn't pursue these areas further beyond pleasure reading. However, another fundamental shift in my perspective did occur while at college. Prior to my first first semester fall of 2020, my experience in STEM had largely been an independent pursuit. I was hyper-focused on continuously building my own knowledge, optimizing for my academic performance and technical know-how. Yet, much of this was just learning for the sake of learning, with no clear goal in mind. At Northeastern, I was exposed to people with purpose. I met peers and professors developing technologies aimed at changing the world, from evolutionary computational algorithms to assistive health monitoring wearables. My view of what technical disciplines were as a whole was transformed. Instead of siloed efforts that every person had to tackle on their own, it was a collective and collaborative endeavor to further our understanding of the world and to improve lives. Combined with my two co-op experiences as a data scientist and software engineer, I'm now equipped to begin actualizing my purpose. And it all started from the efforts of my parents and grandma, who pushed me to strive for my potential to better the world. Thank you.